He is now the best version of Felix that we've ever seen. His game has come together. He looks complete. He understands what he needs to do. Call that an aha, call it an epiphany, call it confidence, call it everything under that umbrella. Because I see you looking around sometimes. You must have like 4 monitors.
No, I'm not going to reveal my secret sauce. I've got let's just say this, I'm monitoring. Let's put it that way.
I bet you are.
I am monitoring. Maybe I'll even do I might do a little we call this BTS is what they call it. I'll just take
behind the
I'll
scenes,
take a picture and let you see what I see. Boom. There's a lot going on there. There's a lot going on there.
I believe it.
But we're back. Regardless, we're back. This is the 3rd installment for our ATP 2025 year-end review. We're kind of we're popping through this bad boy, kind of in age order, right? In our first installment, we talked about the young guns, 19 to 21. Then we talked about the Alcaraz Center age cohort in our most recent segment, and now we're going to talk about the players that are entering their prime, and I want to kind of talk about that in itself, because I remember maybe this is almost a year ago, maybe 9 months ago, when we had Bobby Reynolds, head coach of Auburn University, on the podcast, and he obviously former top 50 player, top 60 player on the ATP Tour, and we were talking about primes and when he gets players into his program versus when their actual prime is. And that thing always stuck with me. He said players are at their prime around 27, 28. And so when we start to look at players on the Pro Tour right now, and if 27, 28 is the prime, then 25, 26 is entering. But I'm not quite sure if that's necessarily still the case with the prime being that late. It feels like it's actually a little bit earlier. Is how do you feel about that, and how does that color what we're talking about today?
It's a great debate. Everybody sees things through their own lens, right? Bobby, of course, saw that at his lens. When you factor in a good college player who's played at least 2 years, maybe 3, which he did. I did quite well, by the way. Shout out to my main man, B-Ray. He was entering his prime, 26, 27, 28, just starting to hit stride. Had a mentor once tell me that it's going to take you 5 years on the tour just to get yourself acclimated to the tournaments, the schedules, the surfaces, the altitude, the food, you name it, the travel in general, knowing what weeks to peak for and not. You have a good week, you have a bad week. He said, but you got to give yourself 5 years. And he was adamant on that. He was adamant. And he had been on the tour himself for about 5, 6 years. And he said, I had more success in my last couple than I had in the first 2 or 3. And he said he was lucky enough to play that long. Mind you, this player didn't crack 300, 400, but he was saying just to get out that level. And I feel this player also had a very, very solid hand in not only in Bobby's development, but also in tennis in general. And I always respected David Drew's advice on that, but it was also his perspective. Bobby, very similar to David. They both went to Vandy, both were top players at Vandy. They both understood and had that same 4-5 year on the tour mindset. So I'm Bobby Reynolds. Finished school at, I think he left on the tour for his last year, if I'm not mistaken, after he got to the finals NCAAs. I think he was 21, give or take. Add 5 years to that, but you have 26, not quite 27 years old. So
Right.
I agree with his math. The problem is, what if you didn't play college?
Right.
You're lucky enough to forego college and go straight there, which, a lot of people in this list and the list we had before did not. I know there's players on the list like Surrender and Norrie and others, and Jacob Farrelly and others that have gone to school, right? And I think David Drew's point is well said, because there is a free to 5 year window, those players have to kind of give it a shot to be out there. So as far as the prime is concerned, I think that prime registers a little more on how long you've been on tour,
Right.
not necessarily the age. That's where I would draw the caveat for me. What say you?
So there's part of this where it's like I'm picking up, you know, what you're putting down, and obviously I know Bobby and I know David, and so I understand the thought process here, and I like the idea of it's time on tour to hit your tour peak, right? Or to hit your prime on being on tour, right? And so there's a lot of things that go into that, right? You probably need 5 good years of going around the calendar a few, like 5 times, to get a grip of all of it, knowing where you can perform well, knowing how to handle yourself, you know,
Yep.
being a professional tennis player. Got
Yep.
it. There's also the physical part of it,
Mhm.
right? When we hit our physical peak, that has very little to do with how long we've been on tour. That has a lot to do with our, you know, our maturation. So now you could say someone who turns pro and is on a tour at age 18 versus someone who turns pro and is on tour at 21, they're going to be training differently. And so where they are 3 years later or 4 years later, 22 versus 25, will look different, but maybe not all that different. Maybe at that point it doesn't really matter much. I don't know. But I like the idea of needing that much time, but then also we're also talking about levels of player here. Maybe 5 is for most players. For the truly great ones, it doesn't take them that long. And we talked about this last year, I think in December. Like, for players who win multiple Grand Slams, you look at when they win their first one. Wawrinka is the outlier.
Right.
19 is about normal, right? And that's
Win
not
that
5 years
first one.
to win the first one.
Correct.
That's not
Correct.
5 years on tour, right? That's usually within the first 2 or 3 years on tour. They'll pop that first one and then go on to win multiple more. So I think it's more of a maybe a precursor to like what your top level is. If you can't hit that level until 28, then maybe top 50 is about where you're going to go. I don't know. We're seeing it happen right now with Bublik. Like, Bublik's getting it together, and, you know, we'll talk about him in another, you know, much later on. But that's kind of where I'm thinking.
I'm going to add to that and push back on that because I think you raised 2 great points. Number one, you raised the point about the player that was on tour versus the player that went to college.
Mhm.
Okay. Huge difference, both in schedule, volume, right? And everything else. And I still feel the same thing holds true, that 5 years. And again, we're talking 3 to 5 years. I don't want to split hairs here, but that's important to understand. Um, I also think the second point you brought up was some of the great ones and how early they win one. We have been in such a vacuum, such a greatest of the greats vacuum, that our stats, in my opinion, are now skewed.
Yeah.
I would push back, Alvin. They are skewed both ways. Early winning of a slam and how long the career is. We have pushed the prime back to allow for players that are winning slams, quote unquote, outside of the prime, because 32, 33 was now the new prime. I would argue that that is only for the greats who were already pretty good.
So
So that's what I'm saying.
are you arguing both sides? Like, 19? I
No,
mean,
I'm
there's just
arguing
the late end.
take the greats out of it.
Sure.
And I
Sure.
think the prime is still right dead smack in the middle, 5 years on tour. It is what I'm saying. The greats skew too much of the data every single direction. That's what they do. They're the outliers. And so I feel like, you know, you're talking about well, there's always another way to get there. Wawrinka in particular. I don't think Cilic was that young when he won his first one out there. There's just a lot of players we keep looking through the lens of the absolute great. And in my opinion, buddy, Novak has won slams from 19 to what, 34?
Oh yeah, or maybe
As far as slams,
yeah,
35.
yeah, something like that. 35. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you can't quantify that.
But the,
No. Anyway, that's all I'm saying.
Well,
What say you?
No. I just said you said something that really caught my attention. Is like the greats are skewing this, but the greats are the only ones that win Grand Slams. Like pretty good doesn't win a slam
up to this point.
Okay, fair. Cilic, I guess Cilic is the example here, but
Cilic
like
is a pretty good player, as was Roddick. And when did Roddick win? 03. How old is Andy now? He's got to be.
He was like 20, 21. I think he turned 21 during that
time.
Yeah, during the tournament.
He'd been on tour for 3 years. There's your 3 to 5. I'm just saying, and I'm not fitting the numbers to match my point. I didn't realize I thought he was a little older actually. But to my point, and I think you and I both know he played better tennis after he won that slam, right? So it just happened to be during the time of Roger and the time of Rafa coming on the scene, catching his stride. Take Roger, this is a big ask.
Yep.
Roger, Rafa, and Novak out of the mix. And if you were to detail the others and their actual prime, we're talking slam finishes, we're talking winning 1000s and such, I bet you'd have an age range, depending on time on tour, where most of those players were closer to the 5 mark and within the 7 to 8 year mark and not much past it. Now that just biologically limits pre-30, right? Just most of them, you were going to college or no, right? Or coming out when you were younger is going to put you either at 21 to 26 or 18 to 23 and so on. So it's still going to, and giving you that time frame, 8 being your cap, that's still putting you at 29. You know what I mean? So I say it to say that to me limits that. The greats, Novak, Roger, Rafa, who continue to win late, the length of prime.
The length of the prime.
Because we're not talking about prime per se. We're talking about the length of their prime. We're talking about the length of their greatness, really, in my opinion, and how they found a way to play regardless of a step. No different than Chris Paul, LeBron James, and Steph Curry have been able to play at a high level in the NBA, right? Michael Jordan himself played on until he was darn near 40. But he was doing a whole lot more fadeaway jumpers than he was coming down, doing shake and bake and rocking you to going to the rack and getting 63 and 72 on Boston when he was a year or two into the league. So I say it to steal another basketball comparison, they can still play at a high level. They are good enough and know the game enough, and you could even bring out some of your football greats like Tom Brady, who've played at a high level for a long time, right? We know what the greats can do. That's why they're the great ones. I'm talking about take those top. And Andy Roddick is one of the greats in my opinion, but you take Roddick down and you kind of put that, what I call that upper best of all time tier, and you start looking at the other really good players in the league, I think that prime is still 3 to 5 years. And I think their window may extend to 8, depending on how healthy, how physical, how, when I say physical, how physical is their game, that it depended more on the physical piece. Your guys like, I go back to Chang, I go up to Leighton Hewitt, and even up to nowadays, I'm trying to think of who's a good version. I hate to put Holger because he's hurt now.
Maybe like de Minaur. Like maybe de Minaur.
Maybe one, right. He's a current one. Maybe before him it was Kei Nishikori. These players, where they needed their speed. That was their weapon. So when they lost a step, they weren't quite as top end, but who's going to be as fast at 30 as you were at 23?
Right. So
that's why I say, that's why I put an 8-year cap on, not that they're still not good tennis players, they're just not as potent as they used to be.
Right.
But they're still every bit as good, just not quite the step, just that extra step, and the recovery of that step is, hey, Father Time is still undefeated.
So I promise the listeners we're going to get to the actual players in this group, but I'm very invested in this conversation right now because there's something that you mentioned and I wanted to come back to it. Prime, like prime. Okay, so this is how I see it on an X and Y kind of axis, right? Like you start off, you at some point you're going to go up and get stronger. Your physical capabilities, right, are going to hit a peak, and then
Yep.
at some point they're going to start coming back down. But then
Yep.
also in the same vein, you could even say that you kind of start it maybe at your physical peak. I don't know, a little bit higher, and it slowly matriculates down, and you
Yep.
just want
Yep.
to level out that plateau. But
Yep.
mentally, your mental capability, the way you read the game, is the one that's always increasing, right? The more you play, the better you are at mentally playing tennis. When those two intersect, that is the prime. And what you want to do is you want to keep that window, that intersection window. You want to zoom in and keep that intersection window as long as you can. Like slow down the deviating paths between them when
Yep.
they cross,
Yep.
right? And I
Yep.
think when you go back to the basketball example, like LeBron James, he's been able to do that for so long because he's so mentally advanced, right? And was
Yep.
also so physically advanced that those two things met pretty quickly, and then they just kind of stayed in the same area, and you can't really tell that it took a while to tell that he was actually starting to slip physically.
Sure.
Tom Brady plays a position that is not as physically demanding. Actually, the better you are mentally as a quarterback, the less physically demanding that game becomes, right? Tennis is this rare sport in where you can't hide, like you can only hide the physical stuff for so long because eventually you start to break down. And that's what's happening to Novak. Like, is he a little bit slower? Sure. Is he a little bit slower to the point that it matters? No. It's the ability to then come back and do it again 2 days later. Like, that's where it starts to get him. So although his tennis IQ is through the roof, right? So I think peak versus prime, different things. Getting to your peak.
So how would you define the two?
Getting to your peak, right? That's probably what happens between around age 28. Yep. I say the prime is like, how long can you stay there?
Okay, I like that. We'll go with that, and that's very well encapsulated. Is that I have to think it varies for everybody, the peak and the prime.
Right.
Right. I would say that the vast majority, the peak would happen a little earlier. And I would say for the great ones, the prime, the extension of the peak, by your definition, almost the greatness of you is only able to extend that prime as long as you can.
I like that.
Would you agree with that?
The peak is the beginning, and then your upper level determines how long that prime goes, or health, right? Like someone like a Delpo. Delpo had his peak. He's ready to go. Prime got shortened because of his ability to stay healthy. Yeah, and I think that helps us.
That's a good level set, as we start going through this conversation.
And I think that really does put us right where it needs to put us. And it also makes me think, like, well, then, okay, I was about to say, it makes me think, what do Carlos and Yannick look like in 3 years, right? But then you also take a look back, like, okay, Fed, Novak, Rafa, these guys all won young, but like, what was the best version of them? It wasn't that first Grand Slam, right? It was pick your your version of Fed, pick your version of Rafa, pick your version of these guys. Like there were a lot of versions of them that you could go, oh man, like, I mean, 2017 Fed was my favorite, right? Because that's when he kind of like he brought the beast out on the backhand side, and he was everything else, but then added that in, and that was like super powered. 17 and 19 Fed was my favorite. We were far removed from his first Wimbledon championship.
Oh, for sure.
But yeah, but let's bring it to present day, right? So this group of players, entering their prime, ages 25 to 26. Captain of this group being Alex de Minaur. Okay, so Alex qualified for Turin, right? Finished the year. He's gonna finish the year, I think 7, something like that, maybe 6, 7. God, I didn't mean to. Sorry. I think this is a great example of, okay, Alex de Minaur has peaked as a tennis player. Okay. Now, how long he is 26, he's in the back end, he's entering his prime. Now it's like, how long can he hold on to this version of good tennis, but he's already talking about feeling like he's getting burnt out. He's playing too many events, the schedule this, the schedule that, which rightly so, it's a lot of tennis, but he's just supposed to be getting into the best part of his career.
I'm going to ask one more defining question.
Sure.
What is past prime? At what point is it a bad tournament? And at what point is it a bellwether for past your prime?
I hate to say one bad year makes me feel like you're past your prime.
As I look at Stefanos somewhere down on one of these lists, and here's why I'm asking the question. I agree with you. Diem has had a great career. He's moving into rare air, especially taking into context the next two that are firmly supplanted as our resident greats. Demon, Ruud, Felix. What's Davidovich Fokina's first name?
Alejandro.
Alejandro, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking Alejandro, I was thinking it was Alex, but Alejandro, Dennis, and a few others on this list, all at the risk of meeting one or two within round of 32 on, if not as the numerical part of a tournament will play out, certainly by round of 16, right? So by definition, you're going to have to beat one of them or 3 and 4 to get to the quarters, where you'll certainly meet one of them if history plays out and it stands, current precedent stands. So the only way to improve what Alex did, the Demon, is to get to semis, which he'd have to beat 2 levels of the count. So that's why I wanted to make sure we're on the same page, because does past prime mean that he did not repeat the previous year, that he fell back, or did past prime mean to the old tennis eye, he just got worked? Demon played a phenomenal first round match in Turin against Carlos. Probably the best I've seen him play. And I was so impressed. I said, Alex is getting better. He's matching up better. He's hitting shots he needs to hit against Carlos, and he's making Carlos go deeper in the bag, find ways and patterns that work against him. And I was impressed by that because it told me that he hadn't waved the old white flag. I don't want to talk too much about my main man, Alex Zverev, because I love Alex Zverev, but he seems to be trying what he always tried. I know we'll get to Alex, but my point is, Sasha Alex is still trying let me just try the old backhand matchup again. It'll work one of these times. Where I felt Demon Alex, was like, no, you're going to beat me another way today. You're going to find another way to beat me because my name is Alex de Minaur. And that's what I loved about that match. Carlos still won the match, Alex. But the fact of the matter was, when I saw the old eye test told me, Demon can play this way against Carlos. Whoa, hold on now. Demon has another gear or 2 left in this situation, and let's just see. And so that's why I say he has the ability to push his prime. If he only gets to the quarters again, will I call that about average in the court of public opinion as far as results? When my eye test told me differently. You talked about Roddick earlier and Fed. Do you remember that? I gotta think it was it the Wemby final with Fed and Roddick, or was it a semi?
The rain one, where they had the rain delay in the middle of the match.
Rain delay, the middle match.
Yeah.
One of the best matches I thought Andy Roddick ever played, and that was a great match for for Fed as well. And I say that to say that match to me, even though he didn't win, was one of the best matches I think he ever played. He may disagree, but for me as a fan, then his 03, then all the matches combined in 03. You know what I mean? So I say that to say, that's what I'm getting at. And that was
No,
that had to be 09, 08, something like that. That
09. It was
to my
09.
point,
Yeah, it was 09.
09, right. 5 years, 6 years after he won a slam. So that's why I mentioned it, Alvin, is I want to make sure we have some decent ground rules on what will it take to, quote unquote, define past your prime, and is it to me it has to be some combination of the two.
Well, I like that question, and I've been thinking about it since you said it. So I think for someone like an Alex de Minaur, and this is probably the same thing for Andy Roddick, it's like the prime is over. You're going to hit your peak where it's probably rankings is a really good reflection of this, right? You get to a certain point where these are the people that are better than me, and these are the people that are below me. Your prime lasts as long as you can stay in that area.
In that
range. People
And
above you
fair.
might age out, right? And you keep going up, but the people behind you, like if 2 age out and 2 pass you, you're still at that same. You're still in that same quartile, right? Right. I think your prime is over when more people pass you than people.
Then you passed. Then right.
Then you pass. Yeah. So
sure. and that's both fair and numerically viable.
The players I used to beat, I can't beat anymore. I think that's when we're starting to leave. We're leaving our prime at that point. We're leaving our prime at that point.
Agreed.
And I think that's a fair point with Alex de Minaur right now, because he's got a handful of players that he can't beat, and he's got a lot of players that he does beat. And until he starts to, now maybe, like, we're either going to get a slightly better version of Alex de Minaur next year or a slightly worse version of Alex de Minaur, and that's going to net out to somewhere between 6 in the world and 12 in the world. I think for him, as long as if he can make Turin again, that check, we're still rolling.
Right,
if we miss it by,
I was going to say,
spots,
I would take that. I would take that up to high as 8, not 12. But to your point, I get what you're saying. End of your ranking being what it is. Yes.
Right.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And I just feel like, again, the great ones are always outliers and they skew the data. At some point, he will fall a bit outside of. The higher his ranking, the later he sees Carlos and Yannick, right? I think we understand that. We both agree on that. So to lose even a step is important. And because that now means you're going to meet them sooner, right? Even around sooner per
16,
slam.
Yeah.
And round of 16 versus quarters is a big deal. And obviously,
very big deal.
It's and obviously you're going to meet one of them in the semis, and that's where I'm at. Anyway, keep going. I like it. I just wanted to make sure we're clear on what, since we defined at least working definitions of prime and peak. Past prime, which is a term we all throw out there, right? We need to kind of have a working definition of past prime as well.
Yeah, I like the definition of, like, not losing, like when you start losing to players that you used to not lose to. I think that, but then what does that look like? Like, what is the eye? Like, there's a little bit of eye test that goes on there.
That's what I'm
saying. Yeah, you can lose one match, but if you consistently start losing to, I can't even give you an example here, but like if Alex de Minaur were to lose to, like, Brandon Nakashima in the 3rd round of the Australian Open,
right,
and then hit the hard court, and then hit the Sunshine Double, and lose to somebody like Arthur Kazoo. And this is the thing, like, because any of these guys can beat any of these guys any given day. You need to look at it. You have to, like, you can't look at any particular tournament and say, oh no, he's out of his prime. You got to look back and go, it's not even just 1 year. That's what I was saying earlier. You need to look at a couple years. Because like right now, I'm looking at de Minaur's, like, interviewer rankings for the last 3 years. 2023, he finished 12. 2024, he finished 9. This year, he finished 7. Okay, so we're unless you think he's going to be a top 4 player anytime soon, we are there.
Right there.
We are there. We are right there. So if he slips past, and I think of things in like 3 year peaks. Peaks not 1 year, and it's 3 years.
Period.
Right?
It's almost like epics, so to speak. You're 3 year. Yeah, and I'm down with that.
So if he were to slide past 12,
right?
Yeah, if he were to slide past 12, that's when I would be concerned. If he finished next year at 10, No, that's
Right.
fine. That's within range. Definitely within reason. If we went 12, 9, 7, and then 10, 15, now I'm like, we're moving the wrong
Because
direction
that
now.
would have also been 2 years also back to back.
Going backwards.
That you're going backwards, right? And
Yeah,
although
and
still very competitive, but and that's what I wanted you to do, because I wanted to be able to know when we start talking about this is it and past prime, you know, where we are in that conversation, because to me that matters big time. You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at a couple names down here that I'm like, ooh, you know what I mean?
Well,
On that note, right?
let's just. I mean, we keep this conversation going, and like, I'm gonna use this as a transition point to. We're gonna skip Casper. We'll come back to Casper in a second, but someone like Felix, right? Felix is a year younger than Alex, but this matters, right? Because if I were to apply that same science to Félix Auger-Aliassime, right? Look back in the last 5 years for Felix. Finished year in 2021, he finished 11 in the world. 2022, 6 in the world. Things are looking good. 2023, 29. 2024, 29 again. This year, 5, right? So if I had looked at 2023 and 2024 just on paper, I'd be like, oh no, he's cashed. But when you watch him play his matches, you just realize he's in a weird spot right now. And you can't say that someone who is age 23 or 24, that's when you know there's something else. It's probably not he's done. He's still working his way there.
I want to hold that thought, and I want to speak back to something
right here in my hand.
we mentioned in the last podcast regarding Jack Draper, because you've just given me the perfect example about the Jack Draper I was talking about. At 6 in the world and 11 in the world, I still felt Felix's game was incomplete. No true identity. Hit a good ball on any given. There was no weaknesses. Strengths were just beat some good people. To your point, 6 in the world. Who can argue with it? But I didn't look at him and say, I know exactly what his identity is. I know what he does, and so does he. And I think he's a threat to take down one of the very top, if not outside chance winning the slam. I never said that, ever. 6 in the world didn't say that. I don't say that now. His game has come together. He looks complete. He understands what he needs to do. Call that an aha, call it an epiphany, call it confidence, call it everything under that umbrella. He is now the best version of Felix that we've ever seen. That was my point with Jack. It has nothing to do with what he's done up to this point. I just don't think it's all come together. My mom used to make chili, Alex, and 3 days later, that chili was even better. She always said the spices needed to actually, her term, marinate, needed to actually come out. Probably had good spaghetti, same. The spices take a little bit of time to soak into, right? The whatever the mixture is, until it becomes a solution in my vernacular. That's what Felix has done now. So I think it's very important that we do not pour rubble over the caskets of these guys when we say past prime. That doesn't mean that they're done. It just means that they're at a point in their career where they need to, kind of make some hay while the sun is shining. And it also means even more for our next category guys when we talk about this is it and what I call the put up or shut up crew. But I feel like Felix is there now. I feel like Jack will get there. Come back to your point now about Felix. I feel like Felix is on a way to get even better this year, not necessarily past top 5, but to even hold top 5 and potentially claw at 1 and 2 like he's trying to now. That would pass both eye test and rankings. And unfortunately for some of these guys on this list, that means that he may go through them in the process. So that's the other part you got to work on this. Numerically, there can only be 4 top 4s. There can only be 4
Right.
semifinalists.
Right.
There can only be 8 quarterfinalists. So at some point, you're going to run into one of them. And the guy that's playing well right now is the guy you have to worry about. And right now, that guy is Félix Auger-Aliassime. And so that's why I'm thinking that I'm so happy with his second burst, or his second wind, if you will, of his career, because he's showing you that, you know, buddy, I'm actually getting my head around this. And, you know, but both these two guys, he and Demon, could do some wonderful things next year with the way they're playing right now.
Well, I love the way you pulled in the Jack Draper example, and I think it really comes down to, this is why we use age as a factor, because someone who is 22 years old and 6th in the world, if we and they haven't been on tour for 5 years, we can assume that the best is yet to come. Now, we might have to take a step backwards, take a step forward, which is, along with some injuries, but Felix was in the woods a little bit for the last 2 years. Even Schiller to the up through this year as well. Like, he was
to summer this
trash. Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of spots of sunshine, but nothing to write home about before we hit the hard courts this summer. But was able to put it together, and like, some of it is classic indoor Felix, who would top 3 in the world indoor tennis player, and some of it is like, we
Canadian,
actually saw he is Canadian. We did see some marked changes in his game, that congealing of who Félix Auger-Aliassime is, and I think more importantly, it seems like he understands who he is, and maybe whatever his camp has been preaching to him is starting to, like, they're all on the same page about, okay, this is the package. This is the package that we bring to market. Like your mom's recipe and my mom's red beans and rice. Like I always said, it's day 3 in the refrigerator is better than when it comes off the stove. And 100%. That's the one you want to bring to show. That's the one you want to bring to show. You want that day 3 version. I want to take the 25-year-old version of Félix Auger-Aliassime, not the 21-year-old version. Which also is like same thing with Demon. Like Demon right now, this is the best version I've seen of Alex de Minaur, and I would say this is probably the best version he's seen of himself.
Gotta be fun. Gotta be fun coming into that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just like it happens in everyone's profession. Like, when you get to that point of where you have enough experience behind you and your brain is still thinking about the things that could be done, like you have hit like nirvana as a professional, right? When you get to the point where you've seen it all and you don't want to think about the future anymore, that's when you're a little past your prime, right? And when you're in the part of your career where you're thinking about all the things in front of you, but you have no base to stand on, then you're wet behind the ears, right? You're a little too green for this. But there's that sweet spot, and for those trading on hands and feet, it's earlier in life, 26 to 29 maybe, and for those of us not, it's a little bit later. So I just kind of think like that's why it's really cool here. And then now it's like, okay, if Félix Auger-Aliassime fancies himself as a top 10 player in the world, then he needs to be one for the next 4 years of his career. How do you stay there?
Right.
That's the question. That's the question, because we've talked about the groups coming.
Right. He's now at that point where he needs that piece. It would be great for him to knock off one of the other 3 through 6s in handly fashion, and really pose a threat, potentially even have a 5-setter against what's the term now? Center Carraz, or whatever you want to call him now, the new two. You gotta, he would need to push one of them enough for them to be like, whoa, we don't have the same stranglehold on this group like we used to. And at that point, to me, that's a sign of the 3 through 8 cumulative. We're catching up to you. You know what I mean? Which is ultimately going to happen, just by who and when.
Yeah, it's like if you were to look at it, like what would it look like to say, I've got it and this is me now? It's like playing Taylor Fritz in the quarterfinals of the Australian Open and beating him in 4 sets, and then pushing one of Sinner or Alcaraz deep into 4 or 5 sets in the semi.
Right. 4 sets,
now
2 breakers. Yep.
Now we're talking.
Right.
Now we're
11-9.
talking. But like at this point, like you would expect Taylor to win that match. Like and Taylor's in that cohort ahead of him.
Right.
And we'll get to Taylor later, but like those are the kind of matches you start to. I need Felix to be there and taking care of that kind of step next year for us to feel like 5 is real. Maybe the truth is somewhere between 5 and 30. I don't know. It's such a wide range. I got no idea.
I think we'll see
your boy,
I think we'll see it. He's playing well.
Okay. All right. We'll see. Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's playing well. And let me tell you who else. I know we kind of briefly went past Ruud. Ruud,
yeah, I
want
to talk about Casper.
I think Casper is at that very, very dangerous spot. Again, unfortunately, assisted by some injuries this year. I haven't really seen Casper much since the French. And again, all of his titles at this point in time have come on the clay surface. I think he has one other title maybe on total. For a guy that's top 10 in the world, that's pretty rare. I would also say that, and I'm going to revisit Jack for a moment. Casper has every shot on any given day. We know his backhand's world class. We know his returns are unreal. Forehand can be up and down. His style of play, reason why he likes the clay better, is he can use all the court. He has angles, he has volleys, he has slice. He counter punishes, he aggressive baselines. He has a little bit of everything at a given time. Physical prime is going to matter a lot. If the injuries dinged him up a little bit, that's going to hurt him going forward. Second, no major serve/forehand as a weapon. He's day-to-day with both. That's going to hurt him to get back to where he was post-injury. Number 3, he loves the clay, not so much on the hard court, clearly not so much on grass, although I'm sure he's pretty good at all of them. He's top 5, 6, 7 in the world. He's good. He's good on water. If he had to play on a water court, he's just good. He's good. So make no mistake. It's just to say, with this competition he's playing against, is he that much better than anybody else? And this is my Jack Draper comparison. Félix Auger-Aliassime comparison. Until they hit that next stride, they are not true top 5 to me. This was always I gotta bring it up, Alvin. My Lorenzo Musetti. Is he 8? Okay. 7, all right. Is he top 5? Is he top 4? Say not yet. And that's why I can't give him that just yet. Will he still get there? Musetti can't. That's another talk show. However, this is where Ruud is. He's not made that next jump, the downshift to upshift to you talked about with Felix. And I feel Jack can. Don't know if Casper can. I just don't know if it's in the cards right now. And so therefore, I'm saying he might be entering that very nebulous past prime level going forward for no other reason that no other style of play or weapon has appeared, and that his overall style is pretty solid, pretty good. But he's going to need to get back ready pretty quickly and be injury-free to have his normal stranglehold on the clay, pushing these other new jacks, right? Including Taylor, including Ben Shelton, including Demon, including Felix. Already, that's a pretty crowded quarter right there, because you already know Center Carras is going to be there. And now you're looking at, okay, who's left? And that's going to be some tough sledding for Mr. Ruud.
Okay. All right.
What say you?
All right. Okay. So. Okay, you almost got me distracted with the Lorenzo comment. But you saved it, so I'm not going to go back there. Back there. But we'll continue forward with Casper.
Are you a Lorenzo fan? Is that the real problem?
Well, here,
Every time I bring up Lorenzo.
Am I a Lorenzo fan?
I'll say it. I've said it before. Lorenzo is phenomenal. I watched him. I told you. I came back. I said it on tape.
Okay, good.
Lorenzo Musetti, he is money. I've said it. I will continue to say it.
Thank you.
I don't give him top 4, top 5 props yet. I still won't. However,
That's
God,
fine.
he's
That's
good.
fine. Yeah,
He's
yeah. He's
very
also
good.
he's 20. He's 20. He's 23 years old. Lorenzo's 23 years old. We got
No
time.
doubt.
We got time.
No doubt.
But
That's all.
okay.
So I
But
want to make sure we say that.
Casper. Okay,
Don't get
Casper.
distracted with Lorenzo.
Let me give you some things about Casper Ruud. Okay,
Yeah.
Casper Ruud is 26 years old, right? Casper has made 2 Grand Slam finals in his career, maybe 3. I think 3. He lost to Nadal in the French Open. He lost to Djokovic French Open final. He lost to Carlos in his maiden U.S. Open championship. Okay, I don't remember the years, but all those things did happen. Okay, this year in Grand Slams, round of 64 at the Australian Open, round of 64 at the French Open, did not play Wimbledon, round of 64 at the U.S. Open. Yeah, pretty bad. Won 2 tournaments this year. Like one hardcourt in Gstaad, maybe? Somewhere. He won a hardcourt somewhere. Later in the year. Stockholm. And then earlier in the year, won Madrid. I remember that. He beat Draper in the final. Fantastic match.
Final. Great match.
Beat Draper. Great match. Great match. I'll also say, so with all that being said, Casper finished 16 in the world this year. 16. 16.
Pretty good year for
by all accounts. He had a pretty bad year. Was hurt for like 3 months, right?
Yep.
And then like also had he and his partner had their first child. Like, as we both know as parents, like you can't just like continue on about your day, even though you're not the one having the kid. Like things change. Things change. Okay.
Everything changes.
We take all that, and that resulted in I finished 16
and a lowly
16
in the world. I'm with you.
A lowly 6 in a down year, 16 in the world. Okay. So if we go backwards, 2021 he finished 8, 2022 he finished 3, in 2021 he finished 8, 2022 he finished 3 in the world. 2023 he was 11, last year he was 6, 16 this year. Okay. So I think we've seen his highest ranking, but that was also pre-Sinner, Alcaraz, post Fed Nadal kind of on the back end, but like still in there with Djokovic. So it was he was like in that almost Dominique team space, if you will, in that time in his career. And right now he's dealing with these other 2 guys. Do I think he's getting back to 3? No. Do I think 16 is a reflection of him as a player right now? No. I would say that's your ceiling and your floor right there.
I would
imagine
his Felix 29? That's my question.
Right. Yeah. I think when a guy's going to play, come again. If a guy's going to play 10 years on tour, you're gonna. It can't be linear, right? It's not going to always continue to get better. Right? You're going to have some things happen. Yeah, you're going to have some things happen. I think we're in that space of like, yeah, he had a down year. Is he a top 10 player? I think that's the real question. Is Casper Ruud still a top 10 player? I think that's if he's betting on himself, he'll say yes, and it's 9, maybe 8. If it's where we think it is, it's probably 11 or 12, but it's not 16. And I think we can agree on that. Like, he's one of the best clay quarters in the world, and he lost in the second round of the French Open this year.
My question, and was dinged up. Let's not forget that.
Yeah, right. Yes, and he was hurt.
Right. My question was this going to be his Felix rebound at 29 to get back to where that is? In other words, Felix had 2 years, 29, give or take, if I'm not mistaken from what you talked about, and then found a way to downshift and upshift. So is it a Felix 29? Can we expect another year at 16? And then he gets back to that when things back healthy wise, gets everything back in good shape. Then he responds and he's back inside the top in the next 18 months to 2 years. That's what I am saying remains to be seen. Felix, to his credit, still had some weapons. He wasn't putting the whole package together. I don't know if Casper has those same weapons. I would love it if he would be. I think he's a great tactician on the court. Love watching him play. I'm just not so sure that he has the rebound, the flip turn up in the pool, so to speak, to get back to that top end status. I think he's more of a resident, and through 16 kind of player going forward, unless something drastic changes And is there anybody that can do it? It's Casper. But in my opinion, I don't see that being. I don't see him resurging back to 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 anytime soon. Although I see him resurging up from 16.
Yeah, and as you start to say that, and I'm thinking about some of the matches he lost, the players he lost to, the player types he lost to, that not being able to dial it up and get easy points off of the serve and forehand will probably be not the death of him, but that will be the thing that keeps him from climbing back into the top 10. Like he can't get free points. He has a tough time, manufacturing free points, and the players above him. You think about the Ben Sheltons, and you think about the Lorenzo Musettis.
The Taylors.
Hell, even think about like Hurt Taylor, Jack Draper, like all these guys. Like these guys all have pop, right? And even when I think about him, like making the finals of that U.S. Open, I almost did like with smoke and mirrors. I don't know how we did that, but yeah, it's just not enough. And he said it as much. I can't remember if this was right after the Australian Open, but he and Tsitsipas said similar things. It feels like the game has changed on the Pro Tour while they're in their primes on the Pro Tour.
Right.
And that is real. That's real. Like that is very, very real. Yeah. So maybe it is a matter of don't let this thing slip past 20.
Yeah.
Let's.
Numerically, that would be tough.
I've been. Yeah. Well, I mean, he could. I mean, maybe he doesn't win a Masters 1000 next year, but he could definitely do better at a couple of these slams. Like we won. We're talking about 3 wins in 3 slams this year. That's not. Casper.
He's got to be better
than that.
He's way better than that.
He is better than that. Yeah.
With so many clay court tournaments, I think he is likely going to win another one. You heard it right here. I think he does better in the 1000 than he'll do with the slams. Me personally. And I just feel like now French, he should go a little farther. He always has. I mean, just so historically over his last 4 or 5 years, he's done a great job of that. So again, I'm not pouring dirt on the casket. I'm simply saying I think Casper has a lot of work to do to regain top 10 status. The 10 is my issue, not Casper returning to good form. The 10, that 9, the 8, possible. Past 8, not too likely with game style and age and coming back.
Yeah.
Is it numerically possible? 100%. Can he win a 2-1000? Absolutely. On clay? Of course. He's almost a favorite. Is he going to do it? This year, we'll see. Do I see another year where he's double digit? I do. Mind you, higher than 16. But I could see him finishing at 11 or 12 and having a good year and still knocking off some players. And you say, oh, he lose to it. Casper Ruud, oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yeah, I can see that because that's Casper. I mean, he will, pardon the pun, he will ghost you. You'll rip him a ball line, he'll go open stance line back with the open stance backhand and hurt you. And then he hooked a forehand angle on your boy Jack Draper so bad in that Madrid tournament. He had a buggy angle in the service box. On Jack's backhand, darn near broke Jack's ankles. I was like, oh, who does an on-the-run forehand buggy angle? I was like, oh. And it was nasty. And it followed up with a volley. I'm like, oh, that's just big right there. When you know the guy is stretched out, stumbling, bumbling with a slice, and you're following it in after you were on the run with a forehand buggy, dude, that's solid tennis right there. He knew it. He hit a ball wider than people can hit with a serve. He hit wider with the forehand angle. Alvin, think about what I'm talking about.
That's Casper though. Casper on clay is like
ball like that. He's a magician. Is what he is. Oh God, it was fun to watch.
His spin profile on the forehand side is it's in a class. Like he hits the heaviest forehand on tour, which is great for him. Which is great for him on clay, but less so much on hard courts where he like. Sure. He did fine in the Masters. Like he won the Masters. He won Madrid, right? He quarterfinaled Rome and got stopped by Sinner. I think it was like 0-0, 0-1, something like that. It was pretty bad.
I remember saying that. Yeah.
Did well in Barcelona, like quarterfinal Barcelona. Didn't do well in Monte Carlo, but like he'd have to clean up there to then make up for the lack of performance in some of the hardcore events, and that's kind of where we might get a little where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. Let's keep moving here because I want to make sure that we talk about both Denis Shapovalov and Alejandro Davidovich Fokina. I mean, yeah, ADF. He's a personal favorite of mine. I love watching him play. I love the way he plays with his heart on his sleeve.
He does,
and
with
like
anger.
he's got so much. Yes, he is possessed on the inside. He is like a tortured artist. And he can't win a tournament to save his life. He gets to a lot of finals, he just can't win one. But with that being said, he had a career year. I mean, he finished top 15 in the world. Like that's amazing. Didn't do fantastic at the slams. Round of 16 performance in Australia, a couple second round losses and a 32 at Wimbledon. So decent year. But showed up in the summer hardcourt swing. I was really impressed with him. With Alex Minaur as well. I think there's one other player that I took a note at the time, but like players who go deep in events and then are able to come back the very next week and like you see that they get a trap first round match and they're able to get through it. Like get through it, get that one extra day off and then continue into your tournament. Like stacking tournaments back to back with performing at your highest level is like that is a hallmark of being a professional tennis player.
100%. A good one anyway. Agree with you. ADF is all I think about is your boy Palpatine talking to the young Vader. Perhaps in your anger, you killed her. And I just think about Palpatine in the back. It was when Alejandro gets pissed out there, man. I mean, salty. I mean, just like he's about to blow every fuse in the circuit box. And sometimes he comes out of it, and sometimes you can tell you just gotta Vesuvius just has to cool off and come back down. I love his energy, his passion. Nobody strikes as clean or as big of a ball. I mean, he just off either way. You know what I mean? I think he's let a serve get away from him from time to time. It can certainly take more time as just with his emotional state from time to time. But it's what's that great line from Kanye? Everything I'm not makes me everything I am. That's where Alejandro is. That's his emotional state. That's where he's at. And I feel like he's one of those and like you say, Alvin, he's kind of backdoored himself into a pretty good year this past year. He's had results all over the place. He didn't have a great, just huge breakout, but he had some good matches all the way through and played well against a lot of people at different times. So, I think ADF still has some room to grow, like the others I mentioned, Jack and Felix formerly. I think his game could kind of it could still congeal a little bit and kind of bring some things together. I think he's a good tournament win away from proving to himself and to his game that this is what I do really well. He does a lot of things well, but he's a bit of a jack of all trades and master of none per se at this point in time, although he's gotten to be a much better jack of all trades. I would say he still needs to let that congeal a lot more like Felix in that regard. And he has a lot of ways to hurt you, and yet there's a few ways he can be hurt and be neutralized. And I feel like if he continues on this path, he'll find ways to do what he does better against more people, deeper into tournaments, the big ones at least.
Yeah. I mean, well put.
And no shortage of confidence. What some confidence of a good win or two, a tournament win, could do for him would be huge. At a 1,000 level, that would add, because you can't quantify what that confidence would do for Alejandro.
I mean, I think he's something like 0-7 or 0-8 in finals. Like he's putting up like old school Felix numbers there, and it would mean a lot to pop one of those, right? Like he lost to Minaur in the finals of Washington. He lost to Fonseca, the finals of maybe Basel. And I mean the Fonseca match, Fonseca was fantastic all the way through and through. But the final against Minaur in DC, he had chances. I think he might even had match points there in that tiebreaker in the third set. But like getting a match like that, not even to speak to what it does to your rankings, but your confidence is like, I can put one together from first round all the way through the finals. Would then start to show him who he is as a player, like help him believe more in himself. But regardless, I'm here for the ride. Like I love watching him play. He's 26. I mean, he's not quite 6 foot tall. So like, we're still talking about, there is some upper limitations here as far as what we're going to get out of the package. But, nah, man, let the good times roll. I love it.
100%. Chapo.
And then let's, Chapo. Yeah. So first year back, Chapo's back. He's back. Chapo back. Like he was hurt. Also in the woods, like the Canadians, man, just going in the woods for a little while, and it seems like he's
a lot of woodlands up there.
So many woods up there.
Yeah.
But very similar to Felix in that, like, you go back a couple years and he was a perennial top 15 player. Like, he finished top 15 from 2019 all the way to 2022, or then slipped out of the top 20 in 23. And then I think he was hurt in 23, started making his way back in 24. And then now we got ourselves back to, low 20s. And so I guess the question is, like, are we getting back to upper limits, Felix? Like, I mean, not Felix, sorry, Dennis? Or has the tour caught up to what he can do?
That's a tough question. I would say it's a good question. I would tweak the question slightly, and I would say, does he have another gear to go? Has the tour caught up? Hard to catch up to a slappy, big serving lefty. I don't care who you are. It's just something you don't see that often. Feliciano Lopez made a 15 to 18-year career lefty serving and volleying because you just never saw it. You just never realized, you didn't see it enough to get comfortable at it, and he was that player. I think Dennis is that player. He's that nowadays version. He's just God, you don't see that. You don't see that ball. You know what I mean? Unless you were his twin brother and grew up with it, you wouldn't see it. I think Chapo has kind of come back from where he was. Do I think that ceiling is outside of the top 10? I do. Do I think that he will? Do I think he has can he continue to make a living? The 500s and 1000s going forward, I do. Do I think that he's one of those kind of guys, Alvin, that can take out a player on a bad day and just blow him off the court? I don't care who you are. Somebody inside the top, anybody inside from about 5 out, he can serve them off the court on a given day. It could be in a routine challenger. It could be at a 500. It could be, doesn't matter. Preferably, obviously, hard court. What was his big run early on? Wasn't that Wemby that he went deep at Wemby, like when he first came on tour, maybe 6-7 years ago? 18, 19. Didn't he blow? Didn't he get to like quarters of Wemby?
Yeah, he came out. I remember he won. It might have been Wimbledon. I think he popped Wemby once, and then maybe Australian Open semifinal it as well. Right. Lost the Fed,
but I thought the first one was Wemby when he first kind of came out, and he just shocked the world, so to speak, with that.
Oh no, he beat Nadal. He beat Nadal in Canada at the Masters event. That was his on home soil, like very Vicky Mboko, like
sure.
Here I am, home soil.
Here I am.
Do the thing. Yeah.
But I said to say, even with players at that level, he reminded me. It reminded me of his ascent to the top in the beginning, which was very, whoa, like, who is this kid? And I haven't necessarily seen some of the other skills catch up, although he's gotten better. Back has gotten better. He's gotten a little better over this movement. But to me, he's a little bit in this definition of what you're talking about, past prime. And yet, I wouldn't have thought that he would be this high right now, which to me is another. If your ceiling isn't as low, that's actually a pretty good sign. Stays healthy, if he can stay healthy. He's a player that I would hate to play if I had a weak forehand or my forehand is day to day. Because being lefty, if he can rip that ball back out wide and serve to it often, God, I gotta think, like, speaking of a Casper Ruud, this is not the kind of guy you want to play on a hard court. If I'm Casper Ruud, play all day, give him to me. But hard court, Chapo Ruud, oof. I give the nod to Chapo all day just because of the matchup. You know what I mean? Yeah, and Dennis isn't going to match up backhand to backhand, you know, I mean, with anybody. So that's done. But I just feel like he's the kind of guy we keep talking about that has that ability to just he has weapons, Alvin. And so, you know, the old broken clock is right twice a day type of deal. He's going to catch fire. It's just a matter of where, you know, and when is it going to be and who's he playing. So that's why I say I don't. And I'm actually pleasantly surprised that he's 23 in the world right now. You know, when I would have thought he'd be closer to 33, you know, or 43, you know, but no major wins this year as far as the slams are concerned. Think didn't he? I think wasn't his best. Did he get 32 of you having you know it's 32 of U.S. Open? Was that his best finish? But lost first round of Wimby.
Yeah, and that was a really interesting.
Right. So
Yeah,
to
so
some point, and I'll just
that
finish.
32 at
Go ahead.
no that 32 at U.S. Open I think was very telling because like that match he lost the center in the round of 32 and I remember this match as clear as day because I was flying back from the U.S. Open, I was watching it on the plane, and he came out and brought the hammer to Yannick in the first set, takes the first set like 7-5, something like that, and then in the second set I think he got up a break in the second set and then gave it right back, and then you started to see him kind of like I think it might have been like 2-3 on that changeover, something like that. You kind of started to see the Dennis come out. Like he was locked in for about an hour and a half and then started to play bitching and complaining to himself. Like he's motioning to his box. And I was like, that's it right there. It's over.
Done.
Like that. Cause Dennis doesn't typically come back from that. And if he does, it's against a lesser player and you need everything and then some and some luck to pull one off against Yannick Sinner and
100%.
like that match, and then you go all the way back to the very beginning of the year. He lost to Lorenzo Musetti. Shouts to Lorenzo, like 6-6-2 or 6-6-3 in the Australian Open, and it's like very similar. Like it's two tight sets. You're right there. You got to stay in there, but he went off the handle again. And like Lorenzo didn't necessarily pick his game up. It's Lorenzo on hard court. You can't be that worried, right? But he did like that's the Shapovalov experience. Like he just will let himself out of the moment and go off the handle. And you go off the handle for 5 minutes. 5 minutes in a men's tennis match can be you get broken, they hold, you get broken again, and we're done. We're done. Especially if that's over the set over two that spans 2 sets. Like yeah, exactly. So I think that's more of a, you know, he recently got married, and you do see typically see a change in players, a little bit of maturation there, and he's also hitting that time in his life where he's 26 years old, getting a little older. Like I could see a point where in the next 2 years you see him maybe pop another semi in a Grand Slam because it's not the tools. It's between the ears, and that's actually something that you can grow out of.
He's got a little Goran in there, doesn't he? Got a little Goran even he's in there. You know, if we could kind of calm him down a little bit and get him mature enough to stay in the moment. You're right. It's a lot off his racket and a lot off of his head going through those lulls and his ebb and flow, so to speak. I would say that again with weapons. You're always dangerous. It's just a matter of how long. And I completely agree with you on that one. I was a little bit again. You told me somebody else had a round of 64, round of 64, round of 128, aka first round, and a round of 32 finish, and they finished 23 in the world. I'd be like, who's that? Like I wouldn't, you wouldn't think of. Although the 32 obviously carries some weight, but just saying. Second, first, and fourth it almost sounds like an aberration, but to understand who the player was, I think Chapo's right where he needs to be. And with players like that, ironically, a little bit past prime actually helps him because now he has to focus. Now he can't just pop a ball when he wants to and make up for his mental walkabout. He has to actually lock in, and I think that actually will help him going down the road. Lest we forget, Goran won a Grand Slam later, not earlier. We all knew how talented he was, but he'd go a little crazy. And Goran won that slam, I want to say he was darn near 30 when he won that slam, when he won Wimby. So that to me gives you exactly, he's a sage, savvy veteran of a coach and everything now, but he was always that good. He just wasn't always as dialed in, as mature. So I think you made a great point there with Chapo. He gets that down. As we all know, a good woman can be great for you. You know what I mean? Can get you, can grow you right up and kind of get you right where you need to be. And I'm hoping that that's the case because he's so fun to watch.
Yeah, and that ranking is kind of built off of he did really well. He won Dallas as 500. He semifinal at Acapulco. Right after that, another 500, and then he won another event later in the year, another 250, I think in Mexico somewhere. I guess that would have been Los Cabos. So he's just crushing it on in this particular time zone, actually. On hard courts. So that's you gotta make it up somewhere, right? If you're not gonna do well at slams, you gotta make it up somewhere, and it's a math game. But I think that's a good place for us to take a pause. We'll take a beat here. We'll shut this one down. These things they do what they do. They go long sometimes, whatever. But we'll come back in the next edition, and we'll tackle the put up or shut up group. I like your name better than mine, so we're gonna go with that. Yeah. So either we'll see you in the next segment or we'll see you next time.
Peace.